obviously all know, the boardwalk, this year-round fair, basically, amusement park is a fixture there, and it has been for a very long time. But you used to be able to go under the boardwalk, and there was this girl, I guess she was about the same age, 15, 16, but me and my buddies, and it was the first time, and she invited us under there to, it was a group thing, my buddies, and but the weird thing is that although I engaged in coitus technically, but nothing ever happened. In other words, I had never had a climax, and so it never happened. But I know Michelle, somehow she got my number probably from, I don't know, it was Dan Moran, and who was the other guy? I can't remember. It doesn't matter his name, but we were all buddies, surfing buddies, and but she called me, and I wasn't interested in Michelle. But then it happened in a dream, and blew my mind, man. It's just wow. So really, technically, God de-virginized me, Mother Nature de-virginized me. But it feels like that all over again for me. This feeling of innocent puppy love, that just wanting a girl, feeling this need, really more than a want, more than a burning desire, just feeling a need for the puppy love, really innocent, pure, just somebody to hold, to comfort. The funny thing, when I was 7 years old, this goes back so far for me as an individual. 7 years old, when other guys were dreaming and bragging about being a fireman when they grew up, or a soldier, or a policeman, standard stuff, right? The guys dream about. I was just dreaming about having the happiest wife in the world. That's all I wanted. I just wanted a happy wife. I knew it at 7 years old. I knew it. I knew that was it. I didn't care about fame, fortune, a career, money, nothing, man. I just wanted a happy woman. And the irony is, for me, it's tough, been a tough pill to swallow, tough row to hoe, has been that it has eluded me, and I've got no one to blame but myself. I can get too obsessive, and of course we know that possessive fits into that. And who did that song? Cling, hold on loosely, don't let go. If you cling too tight, you're going to lose control, and that's kind of it. My youngest daughter and I recently had a conversation where I kind of let loose and I went off on her because she kept on pushing the envelope and the buttons, because she's having a really hard time with her mom. And how all children, they want their parents to stay together. But my former wife, she got kind of embittered, and as predicted in Scripture, and the adulteress, kind of like the prostitute, and she thought, she was going to find a better guy out there. And so I was willing definitely to accept her back after a long time. But, I was the first guy to screw up in our relationship. I want my daughter to understand that. It's very hard to admit. And it brings me into a mixture of tears and rage when I was talking to her. I had to explain this stuff to her. But an incident happened when my wife left me alone with her girlfriend when she went to work. It was a big mistake. And I had two young daughters at the time, living in an RV. Busted my hump as a landscaper down in Santa Cruz area, in Scotts Valley specifically. And her dad had promised me a job, which never panned out. That's why we moved down there. We were living previously up in Humboldt County. Before that, I was on some joint property in Shasta County. I had some joint property with my mom and my stepmom and my dad in Cottonwood, southern Shasta County. But we moved to Humboldt County and the town of Trinidad, and in an RV. And she was pregnant when we left. When we left Shasta County, my first daughter Jennifer, we were married there in Shasta County in 1984, May 1984. And then her dad invited us down. He was going to hook me up, and he was a very rich man at that time, invested in property. He owned a little card casino place in Santa Cruz. I don't know who he had to pay off for that thing, but maybe it was legal. I don't know. But anyhow, long story short, her girlfriend and I were drinking wine one night, and something happened, and an indiscretion. And I was out of my mind, and I was doing drugs. I thought I'd spice up the marriage, and I'd buy a tiny little amount of the snow, they call it, right? A lot of that going around. These guys would walk around down by the boardwalk, their neighborhood they called the Flats, and selling their pure Mexican or pure whatever it was. I never got in trouble with the law for that. Thank God. I've got 30 years off that miserable thing, and got some help, and I still go today to help other people and share my story and listen to other stories. I still sometimes attend these meetings. Never let me forget, what made me crazy, because these drugs, you can lose all sensibilities between the alcohol and the drugs. So, but the one that I really couldn't hang with was the coke, and so it lasted for a very brief period, but enough to basically ruin my life. 18 months about. But her dad helped her move out on me, and he moved her into a condo, and first a house he had up in the Bonnie Doon area, Empire Grade, Santa Cruz Mountains. From there he put her in a condo down on Canfield Street in Santa Cruz. But I know one time when, I was desperately trying to reconcile, because it was pretty much, our marriage was on the rocks, 2 little girls, and then our third child, she was pregnant with Brian, and she didn't have the problem with the powder that I had, and she was very self-controlled, and but our son was born in May 25th, 1988, a perfectly healthy baby boy, but they gave him this hepatitis B shot, from what I understand, on day 1, which was a big mistake. Now, he was born at the what they call, it was a Catholic hospital, the Dominican hospital, and that was, different from my daughters. They were both been born at the community hospital in Santa Cruz, county run. And so I don't know if they give shots on day 1, but this Catholic run hospital, I think they gave him the shot on day 1, and he died 2 weeks later, a sudden infant death, and that's rough on marriages, especially a marriage that was already in trouble. But I tried in vain to salvage. I remember the morning he died, and it was drizzling out in Santa Cruz. And yeah, the end of May, drizzling in Santa Cruz, cold and foggy. We just walked and walked and walked, and I just did my best to comfort her and held her. And the grandparents were watching Jenny and Kristen, our 2 little girls. But I tried to make it work, and she was kind of tired of me. I don't blame her. I wasn't a very good husband at all, failing in a miserable many ways from Sundays. And I know one time, though, she was taking me back, and it had been a long time since we had made love, and we got intimate and made love, and it was so overpowering. I was just so filled with joy that she was going to take me back and forgive me for my indiscretion with her girlfriend. And I had broken it off with a girlfriend months before that, and I think she still thought I was seeing her, though. She had that nagging suspicion, and who could blame her? She fooled around a little too, so she was trying to do the tit for tat thing, but nothing worked, and she finally called it quits with me. But I was explaining this to my daughter in the conversation. I said, I think this is it. I think your mom thought that I was still seeing this woman, and I wasn't. I left not to go see her, but just because my emotions just overcame me, and I was just so grateful that I thought, she was taking me back and I had this chance. So I had to leave. It had nothing to do with running into another woman's arms, but to this day, I'm sure she knows that. I think I might have tried to explain it to her. I'm not sure I ever did, but I did explain it to my daughter, and I told her, listen, your mom was justified in leaving me. But I did explain to her what I think really drove her over the edge, that leaving her that night, that was totally a misunderstanding. And so for years upon years, I tried to reconcile with the woman. Some of the guys she wound up with were a-holes and ended up spending the rest of their lives in jail for being a child molester. One guy in particular she had a kid with. But other guys I was okay with. And Mark, she moved down to Las Vegas with Mark from Santa Cruz. He was a gentleman and respected me and my place in the family. She dumped him for Larry, though. He's the guy that wound up spending the rest of his life in jail being a molester and trying to hire people to murder her and assistant DA or whatever. But Joe, she ended up with Joe, and I liked Joe a lot. And we were competing for her for a while because I moved down to Vegas and bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house trying to impress her. And she was with Joe, though, and I was okay. I liked him quite a bit. But something happened there. I think he moved some other girl into the house he owned, and he was living with her. And so things kind of, I think he was kind of making her try to live with both he and his. I never really quizzed my daughters because they knew what was going on. But she went from one guy to another, and